Okay, we are recording. So, background knowledge. I wanted to share, Dr. B shared with you some of the background knowledge. Let me get in my frame here so she can see me. For why we're doing this. So this is my third attempt to get a master's degree, people. First time was 20 years ago. After I graduated with my bachelor's, I went to tech and did a year's worth of coursework in family consumer sciences. But I was also working nights at Walmart as an overnight stalker, so I could do school during the day, and that didn't bode so well for a young 20-something-year-old, and so that didn't work out. And then the next time is after I was done with Walmart in management and decided I wanted to go into the teaching profession. I started a program at Tech that is a dual master's teacher certification program, and so I was working on that. And I had one more semester to get my master's, and I got offered a job with Lubbock ISD. And if you can imagine, during my student teaching, a student taught all day, and then I went and worked at Walmart full time. So I got very little sleep, not in a good place mentally. So I was like, screw this, I'm gonna get a job. And my electricity kept getting turned off. It was a hard time, but so. I was just like, I'll finish that master's later. Well, when it's been 14, 15 years, that program is toast, so none of that coursework goes over to this one. But in taking the Take Flight program, learning more about how to help kids, for sure, and I've known this about myself because I love to read, but for sure literacy and helping others hopefully have a love of literacy, but also be able to read is super important to me. So I decided I wanted to not just get my Take Flight dyslexia training, I'm going to take it a step further, and I can become a certified CALT, which is a certified academic language therapist, but I have to have a master's to do that. So in conjunction with the dyslexia training and all of that. So anyways, here we are, and you guys get to be my guinea pig. Dr. B is my site supervisor, and this course that I'm taking currently is considered an internship of sorts. So Dr. B gets lots of messages from me. We have to coordinate 60 hours throughout the semester together. So thank you for allowing me to do that, and thank you guys for being here so that we can learn together. Any questions? Okay, and hopefully this works. Yay. Okay, so Scarborough's reading rope. Anyone not ever seen this? Mr. Smith, you can say you haven't seen it because you're a math teacher. Bailey's never seen it. So this goes along with the science of reading, which Ms. Collins has worked with us on a lot of our phonological awareness, decoding, and sight recognition with our U-Fly instruction that we're doing with our DIBBLs and our M class. And so when it came time to try to determine topics for professional development that would be meaningful for all of us, I was looking at this and realized that some of these skills for the language comprehension we haven't focused a ton on, and so I thought maybe that would be beneficial for all of us. As we know, reading is not just for ELA class. Reading goes into every content area. Reading and writing and language skills are super important for all content areas and students' understanding. So we're going to focus today on background knowledge, and in another course we're going to focus on vocabulary, and then verbal reasoning will be the last one. So we're going to do 3 from here to December. So just so you know what's coming. I'm giving you some background knowledge, okay, of what is going to be coming. Ooh, too far. So what is background knowledge? Background knowledge is the amount of information or knowledge someone has on a particular topic. So if Mr. Smith came up here and started showing us equations for math, my background knowledge would be such that I would have absolutely no idea what he was talking about, right? Or Ms. Collins' students brought their models over of a DNA something, and I thought it looked like the character's hair off of the cartoon. What is it?
Inside Out.
Inside Out, thank you. But Ms. Salazar, being well-versed in science, knew automatically that this was a DNA structure and started spouting off things that I had no idea. So background knowledge is not just for students, it's for all of us. It's what helps us to comprehend things. And when we lack background knowledge on a topic, it affects the way that we are able to understand it. When I started Take Flight, we got this huge book. Abby knows about the book that we got. I remember reading the first chapter and I was like, I don't even have a clue what I'm reading. But second year into Take Flight, rereading some of this stuff and doing other chapters in it, I've noticed, oh, I have more of an idea of what's going on now because I have more background knowledge to base my learning from. So here's your brain. Oh, and also while you are sitting, if you need a fidget, you can build a brain with some of these little connecting toys, okay? So don't be bored. But when we're talking about learning, we have what's called working memory. Anyone heard of working memory? What have you heard about working memory?
So working memory is kind of where it keeps information in a temporary space while you're trying to interpret new information.
Okay, and how long does it stay there?
A very short period of time, depending on the person and how their brain actually functions, but it's like minutes to a day or not.
Okay, so as we're teaching students new concepts, they're kind of in their like working memory area. The goal of teaching would be to help get some things stored into their long-term memory. One of the strategies to do that is going to be accessing and activating their background knowledge of the topic that we are teaching them. So our long-term memory is better able to hold the information, and you're able to recall that information if activated, and it helps them make sense of new information. So if they have background knowledge, the new information you're giving them that you can connect it to, then it's going to help them to access that and to comprehend it. If it's all brand new and we have no background knowledge, we have no understanding of it, we haven't connected it to anything, chances are it's going to stay in that working memory, and as soon as class is up, then it's gone. And I think we've probably all seen that with ourselves, but also with our students. So hopefully today we're going to talk about some ideas, and I am not like the perfection of doing this. If you ever want to learn about something, do a professional development on it, and you get to deep dive, and you get to learn more than everybody else. So that would be hopefully helpful for me. So how do we acquire background knowledge? So if we're talking about background knowledge with our students, how do we acquire it? So it's acquired by our experiences someone's had in their life or the amount of knowledge they have retained from reading or listening. So Ms. Lofton and Ms. Dutcher, you have students come into pre-K. Can you tell which ones have had more life experiences than those who have not had a whole lot of life experiences? What are some things that you notice?
Being able to put their jacket on by themselves.
Okay. So a simple task is being able to put a jacket on. Okay.
Or, going to the restroom by themselves independently.
Okay. So it starts our background knowledge as soon as we're born. I mean, we're learning, we're growing. The more experiences that we have, the more background knowledge we have about a variety of topics. So, which is why with a lot of early childhood, the more you talk to your children, the more helpful it is. Like when you're shopping, you're talking about all the things just because you're exposing them to a lot of background knowledge. So what do you think might be a hindrance to background knowledge of students in the early childhood age range?
They don't have a lot of vocal communication with more experienced, like peers or adults.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
If they're in a situation where they don't get to leave their home very often, or like leave a daycare type setting very often, they're just in like limited settings, 1 or 2 settings every single day, they won't have as much background knowledge.
Okay. And then I'm sure you've all been somewhere where you hear the way different parents interact with children, and how we interact with children, even here at TLA as parents, can affect whether they are acquiring background knowledge or not. So, why is background knowledge important? So there's 3 things. So it's a critical component in determining a student's success in reading comprehension. So when we do the DIBELS or the Amplify testing, if comprehension is off, it could be a number of things, but one of them could be that the student does not have any background knowledge specifically for that passage that we've read. And we've read many that they have no idea of what the passage is talking about. And when they have no background knowledge, that will affect their comprehension of the information. And number 2, it's one element that can often make or break a child's reading comprehension. And 3, comprehension is the ultimate goal of reading. So if we're having a student read, and if you've noticed on some of your reading assessments, their fluency is great, their accuracy is great, comprehension is in the toilet. So this can be one of the reasons that could be an issue. Another could be lack of decoding skills that affects their comprehension. They're working too hard to decode. But specifically today, we're going to talk about background knowledge. And there was a study done with middle schoolers. They separated the students into 2 different groups. One group was the best readers, okay, the good readers, the readers who were on grade level per se. And then the other group were very familiar with baseball. Like they think of Ligon, eat, breathe, sleep, baseball, okay? And then they had them read a passage about baseball. Which group do you think did better on the comprehension of that? The background knowledge. So even though a student technically could read better and had better skills of decoding and fluency, they didn't do as well on comprehension because they lacked that background knowledge. Whereas students who struggled more to read did better because they had background knowledge. And I thought that was super important, especially for us. We have a lot of struggling readers. We have a lot of dyslexic students. So activating their prior knowledge or providing prior knowledge, and we'll talk about some skills that we might be able to do to help build some background knowledge, is going to be super helpful and relevant in teaching them. So, and I think it's also helpful for them to know, like, you don't have to be the best reader. It's okay to struggle. That doesn't mean you can't still understand. Share the story with them, or, you know, about how the students who read less well than the ones who, you know, did better.
Like Walker.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he struggles reading, but he has a lot of background knowledge, and his comprehension is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
When
he's interested, when he's interested in it, for sure. So, and that's another key point. Thank you, Ms. Collins, for bringing that up. Garnering students' interest. If they are more interested in a topic, or you can tweak their interest in a topic, their comprehension is going to be better because they're more invested in that knowledge. Okay, did you know you can cite ChatGPT now? And you can ask ChatGPT to give you a citation for the information that you requested from it. FYI, I learned this in my college course because the professor was like, you should have cited ChatGPT, and I was like, oh, you can? So you can. So here are some benefits of background knowledge in reading. So background knowledge is going to help us improve critical thinking, vocabulary, understanding, and learning. So readers with a strong background knowledge have the ability to analyze and evaluate information more effectively. Now, do you think they have to know specifically about that explicit topic?
No, because you read to learn new
Mm-hmm.
things.
They have a way to connect it to something.
Mm-hmm. They can connect it, and one of my favorites when reading, doing a read aloud or interacting, is them making connections to the text. And so, of course, modeling, like, I just made a text to self connection, and then I share how that story or part of the book related to me. Or when the kids, and I'll point it out too, they'll say like, oh, that happened in the book, and remember that one story we read? And I said, oh, you just made a text to text connection, way to go. Or if they say, you know, this happened in the world, you know, that's happening in that book, you just made a text to world connection. So helping to model for them that their brain is already wired to make those connections, and then they can start paying more attention to it. So then when they're reading something that might be slightly unfamiliar, they're able to kind of anchor it to another learning topic. So let's take science, for example. maybe I shouldn't because I'm not sure of where that goes with me, but let's say they don't know about mitochondria, but they know about cells. Could you tie mitochondria back to cells with them? Sure. So that's something for us to think about as we're teaching. Whatever skill it is that we're teaching, what can we tie that back to that maybe they had? And we're going to do an activity here in a minute where we're going to practice that. What can we tie it back to that maybe they've already had in a previous grade that we can help to activate that prior knowledge to what we're currently teaching?
Even in like math, math has these foundational skills that build to the next skill. So like they understand that multiplication is repeated addition. Well, I've already got repeated addition. I know how addition works, and multiplication is a connection to that. That background knowledge can make them feel even just more confident about their ability to master.
Yes.
So that it gets more complex from there, but it works in math too.
Yes, I will say, so the activity I have you doing, ChatGPT help me out because I'm not a math aficionado. It started with like connecting it like that for high school. So it connected skills in high school and I had no idea what it was talking about. So I reworked my question and had it to elementary to middle school. So Mr. Smith, when you get that one, you'll see the connection, but it made more sense about how you start with the most basic of math concepts and how that leads up to where we're teaching in middle school. So increased vocabulary. I would say vocabulary is probably a huge opportunity for us to increase academic vocabulary for our students, and background knowledge can help with that. And then we're going to have, like I said, a specific training on some, hopefully, ways that we could do that together. Better understanding, comprehension, enhanced learning. So they're going to learn more, obviously, when they're understanding what it is that we're trying to get them to learn. So that one's pretty self-explanatory. So, strategies for improving background knowledge. So, activating prior knowledge, that's probably step number one. In prior knowledge, what do they already know that we can tie that to? And with each kid, it might be a little bit different. We all know the KWL chart. What do you know about a topic? That's probably one of the most used ones. You can have a jam session on one of the Nearpod or a Jamboard where you're asking them what do they know and they can post about the topics that they know about that and kind of get a conversation going. So you can have just a verbal conversation about what do you know about it and kind of popcorn around the room. And that might cue someone's prior knowledge, but helping kids reflect on their prior knowledge before reading. And when I say reading, I'm not talking just about reading class, I'm talking about social studies, I'm talking about math, I'm talking about science. We read in all content areas. Helps them be ready to use it and gets them ready for any new knowledge to stick. Try a quick concept map or sticky note brainstorm for younger kids. Show them photos from previous experiences, like when you went on a field trip to a farm or observed a butterfly. So, how can we activate their prior knowledge? So what is a way that you have used in your classrooms, at the gym, because it goes into play for PD2, what is something that you've done to activate prior knowledge that has been successful?
I've done like a graffiti write, and that's just like a simple check-in where, okay, you do a graffiti write, which is they can write anywhere on the paper. It's like tell me all the things you know about before you do fractions. And you can walk around easily and see like, okay, this person, no clue, right? And then this person, oh, they know a lot. So
Exactly, that's exactly what I was going to say. I did a graffiti class at the introduction unit. Just blast, or they can blast me and I'll write it and shoot it up there or something. Just so they already know about it. Gives you an idea of how far off they are, or they really or retain it from me.
For sure. And I like it when it's visual, something that they could see, because then they're able to scaffold off each other. Whereas if it's independent and I'm only one thinking about me and what do I know, then I'm thinking, well, I don't know anything and I'm dumb and I don't know what this is. But if you make it visible where everyone can participate in it, then that enables them to scaffold that with each other. Anyone else have
We just usually sit on the carpet and talk about, a book before we read it, look at the title, look at the cover page, that kind of thing. And make, connections.
Okay.
And then talk about our connections as to the reading.
Very good. So, prior knowledge, the number one predictor of whether a student is going to understand what they're reading is prior knowledge. So if you have a student who's not getting what they're reading, then that would be like step one, first thing, like, do they have any prior knowledge? Did we activate the prior knowledge? That would be the first step to consider with them. Number two, explicitly teach new knowledge. So there's a big push for teachers to focus on higher order thinking. I know when I taught in elementary, like, we had to have one of these up, and then we had like the stems for each one that we should get to, which is not bad. It's not bad, but we need to make sure that they actually remember and understand what it is that we are going over with them before we're trying to get way up here. So these two things down here, remembering, recalls facts and basic concepts, and can they explain the ideas or concepts? And those are some things that you can gauge while you're doing your prior knowledge activation. You're able to tell that with their responses, like, oh, we don't have a clear understanding of this. Or you're able to tell, sweet, they've got this, they have some prior knowledge, we're going to be able to move on up to apply what we're learning about today to analyze. But if they don't have these two down here, there's no point in going way up here because it's not going to make a connection. So any thoughts on this or that you've seen and experienced in the classroom? No? Okay. Okay, connect vocabulary. Help students connect vocabulary words by making concepts or category-oriented lists, starting with words kids are likely to know and adding more varied words they can learn. So here's an example. We start with animal. If we have a concept of animal, then we can understand habitat, like how does that animal live? And if we can understand habitat, then we can understand ecosystem. And if we can understand ecosystem, then we can understand food chain. And if we understand food chain, we can then broach the topic of biodiversity. But if I don't have a good, healthy understanding of the words in front of them, then this topic might not make a whole lot of sense to me. So this was new learning for me while I was researching this, is how to connect the vocabulary and thinking about some of the words, because I know a lot of the words that I have in our new curriculum this year, they've for sure never seen. And so this will be a strategy that I'm going to try to use. And ChatGPT is your friend, okay? If you have biodiversity, and you're like, there's no way my kids are going to know what biodiversity is, you could put it in there and say, ask it, what are the precursor, I forget how I worded it, but you just have to word it, like, it's a trial and error thing in ChatGPT.
Like prerequisite understanding.
Right.
Vocabulary.
Yes. And when I first asked it the question, then it gave me like huge, bullet points of everything. And I asked it, can you give me just the vocabulary words? And then it gave me this list. So don't be afraid to mess around in ChatGPT. Ask it if it's not giving you the answer that you want or something that feels helpful. It's very accommodating. It's very demure. You can ask it again, and it will give you a more concise
One thing
answer.
I'm thinking about is on your Bloom's taxonomy, the ultimate is to be able to create. And I know, like, when we're doing project-based learning, it takes, the point is to tap into the highest level of Bloom's thinking, right, with projects. And I think back to our early years, and I mean, we still struggle with this with our students, but where they just have no ability to tap into any creativity. And I think it really, if you look at the Bloom's taxonomy, you can see, like, because they didn't have a true grasp of concepts, and this is still true today, like sometimes when you're trying to get them into a project and they just want to rush through it or whatever, they don't have a true grasp where they can, like, manipulate the concept, they can compare it to other things, they can connect it to stuff so that they're able to get up to that creativity, and it's probably showing a lack of understanding than to be able to apply it to new, like, novel situations, and then make its way back all the way up to creating something new. And so maybe they need a chance for more background knowledge to connect to before they're even ready to jump into great projects.
I mean, that would be an interesting, so on School AI, it has a PBL icon that you can click to create like a project-based learning on a skill. I would be curious to play with that and see, like, if it doesn't provide background knowledge, if you could ask it, can you please provide a few lessons on background skills prerequisite to this task. Or if you already have your project planned out, I bet you could go in there and ask it to plan something for that. So that would be interesting.
You know, it also makes me, I'm sorry, I'm like
No,
one of
good.
those people who just likes to like connect stuff. It makes me think about how, like in a traditional educational setting, you're not getting a chance to have a lot of big juicy conversations because it's pretty quickly moving. We got to go over things kind of fast, and the big juicy conversations are where you build a lot of that language and the vocabulary and more of the understanding. And so when a kid is in an environment with adults having these great conversations more often, maybe they're able to connect faster, or they're able to get to the analyzing stage because they've had more conversations about concepts. And it's just like a little bit faster to tap into it than when they've been kind of silently trying to just take information that was given to them without actually being able to have a lot of in-depth conversation.
Well, and I want to come back to that when there's a section at the end, we're going to talk about some background knowledge hacks, and I would think that that would be one of them, and then there's a few other suggestions that we'll talk about that might help to make some of that, that's why I like to, might make that happen a little more readily. Okay, vocabulary, we're going to come back to this in October probably. And so, focus on content before skill. This is something that came up when I was researching, and I thought this was it was something I hadn't necessarily thought of. So for equitable learning, we need to teach the concept before content. And I'll give some examples of what that means here in just a second, but the traditional approach is, we're going to talk about what and how and why. So the content before the concepts. They might say, today we're going to look at a play called Romeo and Juliet. And I have some different content areas. I'll give you an example. So this is inequitable due to prior experience. Some may have seen the film, but I don't think a film for Romeo and Juliet has come out since I was a teenager, I don't think. So,
The one with Leonardo DiCaprio?
yeah, the one with Leonardo DiCaprio. Little gangster violence in our film, but so they might not be familiar, and we assume, because a lot of our background knowledge based on our life experiences, we know who Romeo and Juliet is, but maybe they don't. I mean, there's Nomeo, the gnome. So maybe if they've seen Nomeo, but so the concept approach would be why, how, and what. So why do we have friend groups, and how do we relate to others? So this concept is approach. Think of our essential question. I know we've talked about essential questioning. So we're framing what we're teaching with a why, or what are we looking for. So that would be the concept before content. And I wanted to read a couple of examples. So if I do the traditional approach, and I'm an English teacher, I might say, today class, we're going to start our unit on Romeo and Juliet. This is a play written by Shakespeare. Some of you may have seen the film. That would be a more traditional knowledge or traditional approach. However, a concept-based approach, I would say, hey class, I'm sure you've got your friend groups, and you know that there are other groups of friends that you like or dislike. Would any teenager be able to relate to that? For sure. Sometimes friends fall out, never ever thought about why this happens. Let's spend some time thinking about our experiences when friends or when some groups fall out with other groups. Would that be relatable to them? Absolutely, because they are constantly falling in and out of their friend groups. Happens in primary too, especially in Miss Collins' class. Yeah.
I think you passed it. I think you passed it on.
Oh, you passed it? Oh, I just got it
Keeps
down.
on looking.
I'm just getting a small tasty of middle school. A small tasty. So if I was a math teacher, I would say today we're going to start our unit on measurement. And so here's a quick test to look at what you already know and give me an idea of what we'll be learning. Pass off the tests, right? So I think I'm activating knowledge because I'm telling about the topic, right? I gave you the topic, we're ready to move on. But to be concept-based, I would say, how good do you have to be at stuff? What?
Yeah.
Are we in math class? How fast do you need to run? What? I'm super fast. No. How quick do you need to be able to think? Different people have different needs, and so let's do some work on how we measure things and make those judgments about them. So, which approach is really engaging them and connecting to something that is applicable to them? The concept approach. So, and I have a science one, girl. I got everybody. I got history. Watch out. Okay, so history teacher. Today, class, we're going to start our unit on the Second World War and learn about a man called Hitler who took control of Germany to carry out his very bad agendas. Andrea, womp womp, that's what they would say. A concept-based approach to that is, I don't know if you've noticed, but many people in America are angry and arguing. Is that not relevant, as we get this election thing going on? I'm sure you've heard some of this in your own family and communities. Let's talk about what you've heard and why we think the country is arguing. What has made this country angry? Who do we think is benefiting from this? So we're making it applicable to our world before we tie in Germany, which I think Ms. Burrell's been there, I don't know about anybody else, to a foreign place, a foreign person that makes no connection to me. So in order to access Germany, Hitler, we're going to start with where we are first, and would be concept approach. Last one, I don't want to leave Ms. Salazar out. So science teacher, the traditional approach. Today class, we're going to start our topic on ecosystems. As you can see from this picture, there are many organisms in any natural environment. Let's go, okay? Or let's explore the network systems or the networks and systems that you are a part of. So what networks and systems are you a part of? Whether you are a gamer, anybody a gamer? Middle school, raise their hand. A sports person, middle school, raise their hand. Or a performer, middle school, raise your hand. They're all performers. Teacher, raise their hand. You are all part of systems that need you and also where you need them. What does it mean to be part of a system? Okay, so ChatGPT can be your friend on this too. If you're having a lesson and you don't know, how can I make this concept approach? It understands concept approach because that's how I got your examples I just gave you. Okay, so if you're needing an essential question to focus your unit on, your unit of study, ChatGPT can be your friend. A lot of them, if you have predetermined curriculum, it'll already have that for you. But are we talking about it? Are we sharing it? I have mine written on the board or on my wall, but am I really tying our learning that we're doing today back to that question? The answer is no, but I need to be better. So that's all part of that. Any thoughts or comments on the different approach? How can we do this to gym? I feel like I left you out, babe. So the gym. Traditional approach. Today we're doing burpees. Drop and give me 20.
Yeah.
Okay, how could we make it more of a concept approach? I mean, I don't know.
Where's ChatGPT?
ChatGPT. But just to go to say, you can incorporate, I did read an article about including background knowledge, I should send it to you, in PE and what that looks like, and how that can affect their...
I mean, it made me think whenever you're talking about, our high schoolers have background knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And so Jess and I were actually just talking about, why does our middle school class seem like we don't have time to do everything that we have time to do with our high school class? And
Mm-hmm.
it's because I was thinking about it the other day on the way to the gym, and I told her, I said, it's because our middle school has no idea what they're doing. They don't know, they haven't been here. High school can come in, look at the board, know where to start, and they get going. Middle school doesn't do that.
And then if you're
And they have a lot of energy.
right, and
Yeah.
if you're using terms like quads and building
Yeah.
your
haven't
biceps,
had biology
They're still
yet.
at the baby level of understanding, like they don't get it. Like our high schoolers, and even the few that were there last year with the middle school, that are back with the middle school, we allow them to do different lifts. Like they can use the bar for squats. Our babies are using medicine balls for squats instead. And so, yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying.
You're making connections.
Yeah.
I like it. You're
Connections.
making text to self connections, and I appreciate that.
Workouts could be more impactful for them if they had a connection to it, and like, what movements have you done this week that required you to get your knees in a 90-degree angle just in your daily life? Do you ever have to lift something that requires you to get into this motion, and why would it be important to?
So you don't throw your back out.
I'll cover angles with
Doing
them.
nothing. Okay.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
When you're 48 years old.
Right.
Yeah.
So
No,
that we're
it's
not
true.
in bad shape with our hips and knees and.
Everything.
Exactly.
While Bailey was talking, that made me think of in the classroom when we're lacking background. So we have our plan. We're going to do this today and this tomorrow, and I've got my lesson plan set up. If we're lacking background knowledge, my plan might have to go a smidge slower than what I initially planned for.
Right.
That can be hard for me because I'm like, okay, I have a calendar now, but I have, and I see this not just age, like I have an older class that has far less background knowledge. They haven't been at TLE the whole time versus my freshmen and sophomores who have more background knowledge in a lot of these skills that we're doing. We could go a lot faster. And so with my juniors and seniors, I feel like we're slow, but that's probably why we're lacking some of those skills and background knowledge. So it's taking us a little bit longer to get through them. And 5, emphasize. Ooh, I have double print. You are not going crazy. This is blurry. I don't know why. I think I must put 2. So emphasize concepts. So knowledge building is not about memorizing facts. It's important to help kids learn about key concepts and talk about how those concepts could relate to others over time. And this is talking about concept learning. And this is the article from the gym that I got. It's on. I have a document I sent to you guys that'll have this article about the gym on it, I think, and if not, I'll add it to it. But by leading students to consider context in which they will use their understanding, it brings real-world meaning to content, knowledge, and skills. So, why? Why are we learning this? Why? If we can emphasize the concept, like Mr. Smith was talking about the angles, even for gym class. And then 6, plan to build background knowledge over time. So we have our little pre-K students that come. They have varying levels of background knowledge. Each class they're in, each day that they're here, each teacher that they interact with, we are slowly building background knowledge. So hopefully by the time they come to middle school, guys, then they have a wealth of knowledge to pull from, right? That's our goal as teachers, is to help them continue to build background knowledge over time. So I like this little picture. It's showing how, everybody's doing their little part to put the pieces together, and that's what we're doing here. Group activity time. Who's excited? Woohoo! Okay, so on your group activity, we're going to break into groups based on subject areas: ELA, math, science, and social studies. Each group will receive a sample of a skill progression. So what does it look like in the easier stages up to the more difficult stage? As the skill progression, that's the words you can Google in ChatGPT. So you're going to use this to identify a content-specific skill and analyze the background knowledge required for its mastery. So this is an example. Then you have chart paper on your table. I just want, and it doesn't have to be elaborate, like a word progression. So a content area skill. So if you're ELA, you're going to have an ELA skill on here and its progression. I want you and your partner to think about another topic or another example and what that progression might look like. And so I'm putting the secondary, Abby, you're a secondary teacher for all intents and purposes today since I'm doing this. I'm putting on the team, and then we're going to mix in the rest of you so that we have a kind of a spectrum of teaching standards. And then you're just going to kind of show it to us briefly. Like it's not rocket science. It's just a skill progression. And then you can use this as your template. So read through this, you'll understand more of what I'm asking. And then, so Ms. Burrell, you are history lady. So you can go to a table, I have markers, and then I'll pass out. She is a yellow Uno card, green for science, Ms. Salazar, red for Mr. Smith, it seemed fitting, and blue for ELA. Now, just any one of the tables. Now, if you're gonna match your color with your friend. If you get the wild card, you get to choose where you go. Ooh, no cheating. Oh. Okay, and if you have a question, let me know. Here's markers if you want to grab. So we're just looking for a skill progression. It doesn't have to be a set number of steps, just whatever you feel. Anyone need markers?
It's not me in the worst bathroom that I could be. You want to try it? I'd rather be in bath.
We're stretching you.
This is all you.
You have to be different. Yeah, so that, a new topic, so that way it's just an example, and we're just looking for like the main.
We're putting each of the steps in the appropriate order?
Yeah, so what would be like the easiest concept that like your background knowledge to like the harder concept? And that's how your paper has it.
But it's already written for you, like.
No, that's your example. You're gonna come up with a different one, a different example. Yes.
Oh.
This is your, so this is your example. Start off with, and then,
Okay.
or wait, take it matter.
This is the baby step.
Yes.
This is the big idea.
Yeah.
And then we have to,
Okay.
So you're
here,
getting
we have to know this, we have to know this, and we have to know that.
Yeah, so think of like pre-K, what's a science topic? That in pre-K that they would have to know before they could get to another one, and then by the time they get to you,
What are they
you
working?
need them to know what prerequisite skills.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
So is this, I don't know.
Okay, but we can,
Like, we can pick.
you can, so before they get to you, you can either put it in write them
Or first thing summary.
before they get to you.
Biology.
What do you have to know?
We'll just select
She's talking about you. What is she teaching them?
because then by the time you get to biology, they should be able to tell me like,
Okay.
So do we want to start with the big concept, like what's our big idea? And then how can we go backwards?
okay,
I don't know, you're gonna have to tell me what the big idea is, and then from all my background.
So what is she teaching them in pre-K?
Understanding. That's why I was starting. So you have good writing, you want to write? It's just understanding.
What do you never know to understand, like, if matter is a big idea, matter,
so
that's everything in manifestation, let her know, I hate that, like, and then in matter, kind of like what Tracy's class was just doing, like, well, matter, you know,
which could be right above that, which would put it still at the higher.
Oh, I would group that in.
So then they would go, so at the little, they could know, like solids and.
yeah, cause does all of that come
And in
together to
addition, you
make
have
the matter?
your like multiples of addition that go up.
Is that the same thing?
I know.
I was just like, is that the same thing?
It's kind of what we're doing already.
That's
I was gonna
mad.
go-
Then you start putting words in sentences.
But states are
Or
mad.
do you want to do
I
this
got
fraction
some
or no?
Well, I was going, so do addition slash.
Summary.
Or you can do it as one.
Too hard.
Around another one.
Here we go.
Okay, and then.
I didn't know what happened to the orange.
Only one more.
Then.
Oh.
This would be summary.
Let's do you. Let's do.
You want me to write in the marker already? Do we need to do it kind of like longer? Sorry.
No, that's okay. More writing.
Do.
More writing. I want to do this in short, sure.
I'm blanking on that.
So then.
So let's start with self.
Yeah. Which would be
Just
the
exponents.
big concept because.
Right, so what do you need to know in order to understand self?
Three thoughts together.
Okay, so,
So is that the step before cell? So cell.
You're right.
I'm gonna wait till we get it.
Yeah.
Expressions.
so cell, living versus non-living, and then what would go?
Slide it.
Right, the summary, they're gonna connect, they have to
A
start.
cell
Oh,
is
it's
a
not
point,
each other.
right? Or what do you call it? It's a powerhouse, what do
Like
you call
a
it?
system,
A
it's a
system.
unit.
So they need to understand what a,
Like a eco.
a s-
Then.
Paragraph?
Like a networking, like
Okay.
a system, like a town.
okay,
And this has to work.
Oh,
on
no, 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 okay.
the whole
There's
town.
something
Yeah,
that-
no.
That's how a cell is.
Yeah.
One. So then it can be.
so they need to understand what a town is. Or,
Or
like the story of town, like you have
You
Like
need.
the character.
the
Tell
working
us.
solution, okay?
The story element.
Okay.
Is that it?
Yeah, I mean, that's.
And then
So, and
so
then you can
just
just
break
do
it.
the three steps if you want, so you have working system at home, living versus
If we're
non-living.
wrong,
and then-
And we can-
I'm misunderstood the
Yeah,
chat.
cell and then the living versus non-living.
Oh,
Because then
okay.
that gets into organic and that gets
Okay.
into like organic chemistry. and that leads to-
Okay. So.
He's like, I can't think small.
Right,
I can think.
I have an idea of where our things should look like.
Hopefully I didn't misunderstand your.
Yeah,
comments.
Nope. That's great. So
Leave it.
you're gonna bring it over here, because you're gonna tell us about it.
Just
I won't
the
make you do it on the
working system.
video,
It
okay?
seems like it's already.
And
You're
then-
talking about like one of them is perspective, right? One is narrative.
Clarity.
That one's already
Tell
done.
them like,
The font is the one.
everything has to do with.
Yeah.
I think
As long as it's like, yeah, and it goes through like.
So why don't we do it
Your part.
so
Section 1 through 30 is like short, you know, whatever that.
With the brains, those reminded me of brains, so I got them.
Really?
and then again, because then this will lead into a bigger.
Okay. So did you read it good? Okay, stop there? Okay.
Yeah, I just walked away.
No,
You're
it's
just put
fine.
it in there.
Here's your cards. Thank you, thank you. Blue cards, this is how we're gonna decide who goes first. You're gonna have the blue cards? Okay.
Oh, we put the yellow ones on there.
Just a thought.
Okay. Who gets to show us first? Someone's showing us first.
We'll do it.
Green.
Oh,
Oh, that's us.
never mind.
Okay. So we are overall with the living. Did you want to talk?
No, you go for it.
With, just we came up with the idea of just cell, but then we thought, how would we break it down into younger versus older? So I thought just like working system, so kind of like a town. Everything has to do its job before anything can work as a whole. So that leads to the idea, I mean, there's, I'm sure, lots of steps in between, but then you get to the idea of the cell. The cell is made up of many parts. Every single part has to do its job. before it can function as that working system. Then that can lead into, as you get to the older groups, the living versus, am I doing this right?
Yeah.
Like the living versus non-living. So then it leads to things like organic, which leads into your, chemistry. And so it's just, I was thinking as small as I could to as high as I could. So, or we were. Is that what we're looking
Yes,
at?
it looks amazing. You're perfect. A plus. A plus. Next. Blue.
We're going to
So good. Okay, so we thought of the concept of summary was like our end goal, but we started way in pre-K with letter knowledge, and then they got to, be able to decode and phonemic awareness, and then they get to sentence structure, and then we're really talking about story elements, which is like a character, setting, problem, solution, and then once they have that, then we can start summarizing our story.
I know it. Yellow.
Now we
You can go.
Alright, you can talk.
So this is something that we're actually working on. We're working on how humans adapt to their environment, our environment. And so we started out with environment/location, and then the resources that are available in that environment, and then the diversity, and the final thing.
Nice. Let's go, math. Math.
I don't think I wrote as pretty as everybody else.
Well, it's better than mine, so.
We're talking about math.
So to start with, right, your number concepts, right? You understand counting numbers, you understand the value of each number, right? All the way down to pre-K level, right? Then you eventually work up to addition, right? And then subtraction, which is the backwards version of addition, right? And then, like Lindsay said earlier, your multiplication, which is kind of like addition over and over and over and over and over again, right? Then division kind of goes with that. Eventually you get into exponents, right? 2 to the third, it's 2 times 2 times 2, right? Which is 8, right? Slowly you're working your way up. You get into expressions, right? Which is the beginning for equations, right? 5 minus something is 3. Okay, you fill in the blank, it's 2, right? Eventually you get up to 5 minus x equals 3. Well, you know you can replace the x with 2 and it'll get you that, right? You're moving from expressions then into equations, right? And then, once you get a better understanding of equations, you can move into your quadratics. 2x squared minus 4x equals 16, right? Which, you have to understand all of this, because the formula to solve a quadratic, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a, right? Yeah, that's the song, right? But it all starts with understanding the value of a number and how to count up and down, right? Because you eventually get into your positives and negatives. So
Thank you guys for doing that and being willing participants. And I think, so for myself, when I have a student who's struggling, I'm not always successful. I try to think if they could do it, they would do it. And I think especially maybe for younger students who are more engaged in wanting to please the teacher kind of thing, for sure. So rather than thinking the student is just choosing not to do it, or maybe we could start thinking of it in the concept or the frame of mind, if they could do it, they would do it. Are we missing any background knowledge? And kind of think in our minds what step is a prerequisite for whatever this skill is that I'm teaching, or this concept, or you're wanting them to have nice social interactions in pre-K. Do they even know what kindness is? Have they been talked about what kindness is? Things that, it seems really simple, but if they don't know what kindness is, then, or define it, how it looks like, what does it sound like, then how are we going to expect that expectation from them in the classroom? So you guys did amazing. A pluses for all of you. Okay, now let's talk about some hacking real quick. This is our last little topic about knowledge building. So how can we help build knowledge in our students? And so these are just a couple of ideas. There's innumerable ways to do it, okay? These are just a couple that I thought might be applicable. So read widely on a topic. Whatever your unit of study is, and this could be math, this could be social studies, science, any topic that you're about to study, read widely on it. So multiple texts on the same topic. Include a variety of genres. So maybe I have a picture book, then I share a poem, then I have an article, maybe a graphic novel. So depending on what it is, share multiple representations of genres. And then have them read independently on a wide variety. Your read alouds that you're doing, read a widely on a topic. So rather than just go through topic, like breadth over, we'd want depth. Yeah, depth. So, so that would be one hack, perhaps, to help us build some knowledge of our students at TLA. Another one, use picture books for all ages. I love picture books, like they're my favorite. Now, I love audiobooks, let's not lie, but picture books, like I could totally go to Barnes & Noble and just be like a happy little clam in there, and spend, I love picture books. So I brought a picture book to show an example of each content area. I didn't bring one for Jim. It's okay. It's okay. So, and then don't skip the back matter. If you lack nerd skills, the back matter, there's usually like blurby stuff in the back that talks about the subject. So this is Roosters Off to See the World. You can use this one for math. You can use it in a variety of ways, but so we start with Rooster, one little dude, okay? Then we have Rooster plus 2 cats. So you can do addition with it. I'm not sure about higher math skills. I'm kind of maxed out at addition, subtraction, a little multiplication, but anyway, so it's adding characters to it the whole way, and then in the story, then it ends up subtracting characters as the story goes on. So you could easily use that to activate. Today we're going to talk about addition and whatever. You could go on ChatGPT to make it more applicable to the whatever. But there's a ton of different math books of all different topics and picture books for all levels. For history, this is a historical fiction. There's lots of back matter on this one that we're not going to forget about. But it's about Patricia Polacco. She would be like my go-to for history, social studies. She's got all sorts of amazing things. This one's more about St. Patrick's Day, and it talks about her family's culture. She uses a lot of family stories from her family history, and she writes stories about them. And they could see like the fire that happened. But Patricia Polacco has a ton of historical science. How can I relate the size of something if a student's never been to a zoo before, right? They've never seen it, and we're like, we could show it on the TV, and maybe that would give us a better idea. But this life size, so here's an elephant's toenail, just the toenail. It's the actual size. We have, here's what a hummingbird. So they're so fast we can never catch them, right? Well, this is how tiny a hummingbird actually is. So could we build background knowledge with the students so they can understand, we live in the desert. What does a polar bear's hand look like? This is how big a polar bear's hand is. So, and this is just one of my favorite science ones. It has all sorts of, the toucan, we don't live in a tropical forest, how big is their beak? Right there. So when you use a picture book, you can help them build background knowledge because they're able to see it. This one, they're able to see what size it truly is, even. And I have, well, I'll tell you in a minute. This one is a lyrical biography about the story of E.B. White. So if we're going to read Charlotte's Web, or The Trumpet of the Swan, or one of his other works of art, then we can read this book, and it's going to tell us about him. It's gonna have pictures, which pictures are just more entertaining. I had a college professor at Tech while I was doing my program. She read picture books to us as graduate students in college. She read picture books to us. So there's no tap out on age for picture books and what they can bring to your lesson. I have some printouts, so some math read alouds. Read Aloud Revival is a woman I followed when I did homeschooling with my students, but she has amazing lists of books. You want to look for books by age, she has them by age. You want to look by topic, she has them by topic, and she has impeccable taste. So I will add that to the document that I shared with you and put her link on it, but I have some of these book lists that you can kind of look through. I did one for math, I did one for social studies, I did one for science, and then the rest are kind of for fall, which is in October, since that's where we're going to be heading. But I will give you the electronic link to that so that you can kind of use it. So, provide sensory experiences. This is my most favorite, and I don't do it as much as I should, but, and I broke this up by topic as well, so we can see when I say provide sensory experiences, what that might look like for ELA. So for ELA, use textured materials like sandpaper, velvet, or clay to help students write descriptive passages based on their tactile experiences. So you're wanting them to add more details to whatever they're writing, give them something concrete that they could touch. How does that feel? Create a word list, and okay, let's see if we can add these to your description in the thing. I know Miss Amy and Miss Lofton, you guys have used and are using manipulatives for letter knowledge, and you've got the sand and that kind of thing. So sound, play soundscapes related to the setting of a novel or story to help students immerse themselves in the narrative. We made a playlist to go with our book with songs that we felt. We summarized each chapter with a playlist, with a song, and then created a whole playlist that we felt needed that with our secondary students. Sight, use visual storytelling by showing relevant images, graphic novels, or picture books to accompany text readings. And then smell and taste, when studying text with strong references to food or setting, provide students with similar smells or tastes to experience what characters might be encountering. And I would say that has been the most impactful for the students adding food to it. They love it. So we've had butter beans last year. We made lettuce sandwiches because on Interpreter of the Swan, he ate lettuce sandwiches. Kinsley still talks about the lettuce sandwiches. So this is just something, if in the book that you're reading talks about something, that's a fun way to bring, the book we're reading right now talks about sunflower seeds, but I just can't bring myself to give middle school sunflower seeds right now, so we'll see. But we talked about sunflower seeds, and we talked about what flavor they liked best, and so even though I'm not giving them to them because I'm afraid what they will do with them, we did talk about that because the character in our book loves sunflower seeds. Yeah. Mathematics. So touch, using manipulatives such as cubes, blocks, or tactile geometric shapes to help students understand concepts like volumes or area. We can use sight, incorporate colorful charts, graphs, and diagrams to represent mathematical data visually, making abstract concepts more concrete. And I will say for dyslexic students, that's going to be super helpful. If you can make something abstract, concrete that they can see, touch, feel, that's going to help it stick a lot better for them. Sound, playing rhythmic patterns or music that relates to mathematical concepts like patterns, symmetry, or fractions. And then I added this one myself because they didn't have a taste one, but edible manipulatives. I mean, if you're doing like counting, give them M&Ms to do their thing with, and when we're done with class, then you can eat them. Subtract, there you go. So add food to anything and understand it. For science, we can conduct hands-on experiments, and I think our No Atom curriculum, I'm not familiar with, but just hearing you guys talk about it, it sounds like they have a lot of hands-on things, which is perfect, where students can feel different materials, soft versus hard, hot versus cold, Cite, show videos, diagrams, or animations of scientific processes like photosynthesis or the water cycle to help visualize abstract ideas. Smell, taste. For biology or chemistry lessons, safely incorporate materials with different smells, such as herbs, flowers, or vinegar, or taste test for lessons about the senses or food chemistry. And then sound. Play nature sounds when studying ecosystems or the sounds of a chemical reaction when explaining lab experiments. And social studies. We can use historical artifacts, maps, visual timelines to make abstract events more tangible for our students. We can allow students to handle replicas of historical artifacts or textiles from different cultures and time periods. Play recordings of historical speeches or traditional music from different cultures to enhance discussions. And then taste, offer samples of traditional foods, and I know Ms. Burrell's done this with her students from various cultures during the unit of world history or geography. So anything that we can do to help incorporate the senses is going to help us to build a meaningful experience. And if it's a meaningful experience, it's more likely to be stored in their long-term memory, which will make it able to be recalled. If it's not meaningful to them, it's not going to stick, and it's not going to be there, and it won't be background knowledge. So, thank you for listening to my Titan talk. Any questions, comments? Here's my references, and then I will send you the document that has all of the links to the articles that I used if you might find them. But thank you.